Okay, we're gonna get the meeting called to order. And first thing up is the pledge of allegiance. Jackson, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I'm going to deviate just a tiny bit right here. Last month, we had a moment of silence for someone who passed away, and I was evidently not doing what I should have because I did not say the name of that person. It was Rose Cook. So I want to make sure that I put that out there this month, that I was remiss in not stating her name last month when we had a moment of silence. So now that I've done that, we'll go on to the approval of the consent agenda. We want to accept.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
There was supposed to be an amendment to that.
Oh, yeah, with the amendment. Okay.
It's an additional, it's
It's a resignation from Tressa Remington. Do I need to read the whole thing or just? Okay, we have a resignation from Tressa Remington as part of the consent agenda that was emailed to us earlier today that didn't make it on these. So, Christopher, you want to amend that to include that resignation?
Am I amending my motion or am I making a new motion?
Yeah,
I guess I.
you can amend the one that you
Well,
just
we don't have a
made
second.
to include the resignation.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda with the addition of Tressa Remington's resignation.
There we go. Second that. Okay, been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Now, all those in favor? Now, is
Karen's got.
Aaron on? Okay, oh, she's got her hand up.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so approved 4-0 and 1 absent. Okay. And just so everybody knows, Karen has a sick family member that she's not here tonight, and Aaron's not feeling well, so she's joining us by Zoom. Okay, is there any request for agenda modifications tonight?
We have one in that our auditors could not be with us tonight. They will come and share the audit reports in March. When we get to the discussion and approval, it has approval of the 21-22 financial audit. We would like a vote to accept that we've got it. And then we'll actually do the approval after they report in March.
Just an acknowledgement that it's been received.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that is the modification reports, student government report.
Jackson wins that one.
Oh, Jackson gets it tonight. Nice.
Brooklyn could not be here, so I'm going to be reading it for her. ASB has been up to some pretty fun things in the last couple months. Here are the highlights. We had a dance on January 14th that was reasonably successful. We had around 150 students attend. We've been doing hoop shoot during halftime of most home games, which is a community favorite, and it has been successful. ASB has been doing random acts during the school day a couple times a week to boost spirits and engage more students in a smaller setting. Some of these have included an impromptu beach party, personal security for a student, a speed raffle, an early morning campfire, and popcorn after school on a Friday. These activities are designed to create positive chaos and give students more reason to be at school, so they don't miss out on the fun. Some upcoming events are the Polar Plunge is this Saturday, and signups are still open. All the money will go to our unified basketball team. Contact Abigail and Shelley Brown with any questions. There's a home unified basketball game tournament on February 25th from 8 to 4:30. It would be awesome if you could come support these athletes. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Before we go any farther, I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight and showing your support. So, let's see, acuity will be moved down to the other, Bowman Academy.
You want me to go to the middle?
You can, yeah.
Wow, well, welcome to our space.
Yeah,
This is the
Welcome to
Bowman
the
Academy High School classroom. And we have a very lovely space just across there, offices and Mrs. House's K-8 classroom. So we would love for any of you to come visit at some point and see it. Maybe we'll have cookies for you. I don't know. But so really quickly, Philomath Academy, later on your agenda, you're going to be looking through, I believe, the audit. Dr. Johnson was not able to be here tonight. He wanted me to express his apologies for not being able to be here. But we want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to have such a great space for our students. It's pretty amazing. We want to thank the district office staff for bearing with us as our kids learn to use the back door and not drink their coffee. I want to thank the elementary school for especially giving our kids school lunches. It's been great working with them. So we're really appreciative to be in our space. And it's really important that, I guess it's called an audit. I'm not sure even what it's called, but just for our school to continue to be considered an alternative school. It does a lot for our students to have that mark, that stamp. So that's about all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, have a good evening. I'm going home.
KBCS annual report. And we have that in our board packet.
And my suggestion would be that if you have questions about that, that you let me know, and I can raise them if it would get in the way of approval of what's happening and what they've got in the report.
Okay.
So do you need anything from us tonight, or we just?
Well, this is just on reports, I think, down here.
We just accept it as presented, or?
It's really about, if there were questions for it, but it's really about acknowledging receipt
Acknowledging.
more than it is
So,
approval.
Diana might still show up.
Oh, okay.
What?
Diana Barnhart could show up.
Could show us.
Because
Oh.
they were going to give a report,
oh, okay.
so she could show up.
I guess I just have one question. I'm sorry.
No.
And I'm sorry I didn't reach out for it. Do we have like a PDF? There's just like a few links. They're like, you can view this survey here, but it's not something we can actually click on in the version we were given. Okay, I don't know. That's just the only
Okay.
sort of like.
Okay.
I had a few specific questions that I can follow up with.
Okay.
So should we wait to approve it till later in the meeting then? In case
We can
Diana
hold on to
shows
see
up?
if Diana shows up.
Okay.
Reports number 5, it's turf, softball, and baseball field presentation. And I don't know.
Let me pull this up here.
Are they on Zoom?
No, they're not.
Hey,
They're probably at the
so
basketball game.
Okay.
because our auditors didn't show up, the timeline that I gave everybody is off a little bit, but
Ah.
maybe if we get to, the other reports.
Well,
the
if
other
they come in,
show
we
up.
can go back to
Yes.
it then.
Perfect.
Not a problem. Okay, number 6 is Special Education Advisory Committee. And you said they made.
No, looks like no updates.
Okay. Emerging Bilingual Advisory Committee.
You give a report if you want.
Sure.
I'm Lynn Fly, the English language development teacher. We got to have 2 meetings, and the first one since the pandemic. We were gonna have one tonight, but we canceled it in lieu of what was happening here because some of the kids were quite sick. But we had two really nice meetings, potluck, and we had the Lynn Benton Skin Hub come to the second one, and they brought everything they had, and the kids and families really had a good time. Chris Singer from LDCC has come and done some things during the summer in our classes, and the kids have really, it's been educationally and stimulating and engaging for them. But parents, we had a good turnout. That was something I was worried about because we hadn't had one in 2.5 years, at least in person. So well attended, and we'll have another 2 more for schools.
So good. Thank you. Thank you. Technology report.
Right. How's everyone doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Can't connect to Warriors, but.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm not the first person to mention this.
That's what my password is, and I don't know.
I know I have my password, it's just not logged in.
Something is up.
Thank you.
Where will Amy go?
All right. So,
Can we get your names first?
Absolutely.
And then position, and then everybody,
absolutely.
okay?
My name is Mark Neville. I'm the tech director for the IT department here in the Tuolumne School District. This is Joshua Martin. He is our system administrator for the district. And then we have Quinn Ashoff as well. He's our tech specialist too, and he is not with us tonight. He's at home. And then we also have Trevor Johnson, who's our volunteer that works with us. So that's who we are, and glad to be here.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. All right, I'm going to start us off here with some department goals. What are the primary goals of the IT? You need to wait for you, Susan, or?
I just had to get to a place where I could make sure I had it, so.
Oh, it's okay.
Hey, there we go.
Okay. One of the primary goals of the IT department is to maintain a robust and secure technology infrastructure that supports the needs of the district. This includes reliable networking, storage, and backup systems, as well as the cybersecurity measures to protect against data breaches, viruses, and other security threats. The IT department is dedicated to providing exceptional customer service to students, teachers, and staff. This means being responsive, knowledgeable, and helpful in addressing technology-related issues and providing training and support to help users become more proficient with technology. The IT department works closely with teachers to identify ways that technology can be used to enhance teaching and learning. This may involve providing access to digital resources, integrating technology into classrooms, and offering training and support to help teachers use technology effectively. The IT department works to create a safe and inclusive digital environment for students, teachers, and staff. This may involve implementing policies and procedures that promote responsible use of technology, protecting against cyberbullying and other forms of online harassment, and ensuring that all users have equal access to technology resources. The IT department is committed to staying current with emerging technologies and best practices. This means attending conferences and training sessions, networking with other IT professionals, and keeping up with industry trends and developments. The IT department is dedicated to managing technology costs effectively and ensuring that technology resources are allocated in a way that maximizes the impact on teaching and learning. This may involve implementing cost-saving measures, negotiating with vendors, and finding a creative way to leverage existing resources. The IT department is responsible for ensuring that the school's technology systems and practices are compliant with relevant regulations and policies. This includes compliance with data privacy and security regulations, as well as ensuring that technology is used in a safe and responsible manner. Now we're going to go on to some of our accomplishments over the last year. And these are things that we'd like to talk about here with you guys, so bear with me for a second. We solve problems every day, the vast majority go unseen. But these are a few of the noteworthy ones that we take pride in having accomplished. We successfully rolled out one Chromebook per student for grades 8 to 12, and increased the number of Chromebooks available in carts for the lower grade levels. We deployed IBOS filtering on each Chromebook so that students are filtered at home and at school. We installed 8 ClearTouch devices in the primary school, an additional 4 at the high school, and hosted a training boot camp for teachers. We deployed and tested Vivid devices, which are designed to allow wireless display functionality for things like projectors, and ultimately found them to be ineffective as classroom teaching aids. We have, however, found them to be very effective tools for digital signage and in places like conference rooms. We are currently in the process of pivoting towards smarter use cases for existing hardware. We replaced numerous scaling projectors with more reliable replacements, including ClearTouch panels and regular televisions. We installed and configured an extremely sophisticated firewall as a first line of defense to bolster the district-wide security. We upgraded our uninterruptible power supply within the Network Operations Center, aka the building behind the big blue dumpster, to protect our most important equipment and data in the event of a power outage. We have contracted an external security expert to perform an audit of Tholoma's systems and have already made tremendous headway in a plan to improve in key areas. We have established roles and responsibilities and conducted district-wide training for Finalsite and our website host. We have worked to foster better communication between tech and teachers via district-wide emails for important updates, as well as a new unified phone number and email address for the entire department. The tech department is now actively participating in the district's CS for All, Computer Science for All group, and are in the process of forming a tech advisory group. And finally, Ashley Holgate, arguably our strongest tech ally in the district, and an honorary tech department member, has made incredible progress in fostering a digital citizenship program for students K through 5. And as we've done that, we're going to look at changes on the horizon. Network changes. Later this year, we hope to remodel the district's virtual LAN infrastructure. This would be akin to building a new expressway instead of using existing side roads. This is necessary as the side roads we've been using can no longer be upgraded to support the amount of traffic we handle. There are no hardware costs, but we will need to contract out the planning and implementation. We plan to partner with both Ednetics and LBL to accomplish this. The data server. Nearly all district data is housed on our data server and is arguably our most vital system. Our current data server is nearing end of life and must be replaced by the end of the year. ClearTouch panels. Although they are incredibly useful at any grade level, our initial testing found ClearTouch to have the highest positive impact at the lowest grade levels. Thus, the elementary school is the next logical step. We will continue the rollout to the next school at the elementary school. Chromebook 1-to-1. Rather than purchasing Chromebooks en masse, we have constructed a plan to purchase Chromebooks in yearly waves to better accommodate budgetary constraints and offset the cost of supporting 1-to-1. The idea is to purchase enough Chromebooks for the incoming class of 8th graders. Those same Chromebooks will then follow the students until graduation. Chromebook cards. Grades K through 7 are heavily reliant on Chromebook cards as they are not currently 1-to-1. We anticipate a need for replacement Chromebooks and cards as they age out, as well as additional cards as the district grows. Staff, we got laptop refresh. Laptops are now at the age of replacement in the district. Many are beginning to show early signs of hardware failure. It is time we start a laptop refresh, starting with the oldest laptops. Projector replacement. We intend to eventually replace every projector with a ClearTouch panel. Having said that, we have found that regular TVs to be a cost-effective stopgap when the projector fails unexpectedly. Computer lab refresh. Hardware in computer labs is aging and will need to be replaced or removed. We are currently in discussion regarding options. New printer contract. The district's printer service contract with CTX expires this year. We're looking into other potential solutions and plan to do a complete overhaul of the way teachers use printers and to make the process easier and more secure. SIS to Synergy. LBL has chosen to transition their and subsequently our student information system to a much improved system called Synergy. The effects are far-reaching, but we will elaborate in just a moment. Cybersecurity changes. There are a number of these to come, including two-factor authentication. There will be more information on this later this year. And finally, as you may know, we lost a colleague and a good friend this year, Stephen Boone, the fourth member of our team. He is sorely missed. In his absence, we have been able to endure, but with summer fast approaching, we need to have that fourth person added back to our team. We plan to open up this position here in the near future. And then here, we'll go to our Synergy update. So regarding the transition to Synergy, there will be training for the various roles assigned within the Synergy application. It will be important to get this training to users as it becomes available so that we are ready for the transition coming July 1st. Because the system is being rolled out by LBL, our best options are to be as planned and well prepared as possible. We will need to transition our data from one system to the other, but before this can happen, we want to clean up that data as best we can. This way, when LBL ports our data over, we aren't taking anything that's unnecessary. Working with the staff, we will also need to be taking backups of old data from SIS. The current system will not be active for long after July 1st target date, so we need to back up our files for data retention. The IT department is committed to helping support the staff as much as possible with this transition. We are taking the trainings ourselves so that we can best support our teachers and staff when this time comes. From here, I'm going to let Josh speak.
All right. So regarding clear touches, we successfully employed 8 clear touches in classrooms within Clemens Primary School and another 4 at the high school with incredible results. Teachers are really enjoying the interactivity. These are effectively 75-inch enterprise-grade televisions with very responsive touchscreens and a built-in Windows computer. They're intuitive to use as the interface is exactly the same as their laptops, and having them mounted lower to the ground allows students to come up and interact with teaching content with their bare hands. They are cost-effective, as they effectively replace a projector, smartboard, and in some situations, remove the need for another dedicated computer altogether. They can be placed on mobile stands, making sharing between classrooms or departments easy, although teachers very much seem to prefer them one another. They integrate perfectly with our existing infrastructure. They're extremely durable, and they include a 5-year warranty. All right. So regarding Chromebooks, this last year, we were able to issue 1 Chromebook per student for grades 8 through 12. And aside from some known hiccups stemming from our legally mandated web filter, issues have been minimal. These devices are rugged, inexpensive per unit, and very capable. Students have demonstrated exceptional responsibility in caring for these devices. In fact, we have received exactly 1 device that was broken beyond repair due to damage from handling. More accurately, it was accidentally run over by a car. In many cases, they can replace textbooks and many other classroom materials, and Google services like Google Docs replace much more expensive software like Microsoft Office. Issuing on a one-to-one basis ends up requiring fewer devices than having a cart in each classroom. And the consensus is that students tend to take better care of devices when they feel they have a sense of ownership over them. They're also very easy to manage. Students are filtered properly at home and at school via plugin, and devices can be turned on, shut off, updated, and monitored via Google Workspace. Our intention is to purchase enough each year to cover incoming 8th grade students with a buffer for loss and growth, and have those Chromebooks follow them until graduation.
I got a question. With these Chromebooks, I think that before we were told that they were going to follow them through graduation, and at that time, the Chromebooks would actually be kind of obsolete, so they would be able just to go ahead and keep them.
Mm-hmm.
That's still the plan?
Yes,
Okay,
that is the plan.
okay, well, that's not what was right here, but I just wanted to make sure that what we were told before is moving forward.
Yes,
It's going to be the plan.
yes.
Okay, cool.
Oh, right, perhaps I didn't adequately explain that. So they have the end of service life for the batch of Chromebooks that were purchased with the, what was it? The
Emergency connectivity fund.
Right. So those were purchased in bulk, and those reach end of life in 2028. And if we wait until then, we'll have to replace all of the old ones. Does that make sense? So as opposed to that, what our plan is to stage things up until that point.
Yeah, but at the end of the 4 years, when they graduate, then they'll be allowed to just go ahead and keep them rather than have to turn them back in
Oh,
because
yes,
they're
yeah.
useless to us anyhow because they're obsolete.
Yes.
Okay, yep.
But actually, it's 5 years, because from 8 through 12.
Yeah, well, that's why I say after they graduate, so. Okay.
Okay. So with regards to the data server, we need to replace our data server. This is the computer that houses nearly all of the district's data, including student and staff files and records, as well as the virtual machines that run things like financial data systems, teacher curriculum applications, and Windows services. We take measures to ensure the data is safe, including daily automated backups and an additional offsite backup. Having said that, our current data server is ancient in tech terms and will reach end of life this year. It is also experiencing intermittent minor issues, which we attribute to hardware failure. We'll get into numbers soon, but after much research and negotiation, we have secured a quote from a company called IX Systems at a massive discount. The new system is much faster, expandable, and upgradable to meet future needs, and features 5 years of support. All right. So, staff laptops. Our current staff laptops are beginning to show their age, as I'm sure many of you know. They were purchased nearly 5 years ago when supply was scarce, and while they have served their purpose, they are far from ideal. Many are beginning to fail irreparably because of their limited ports. Some only have a single USB-C port. They require docks that add significant cost and exacerbate the cable spaghetti situation some staff experience. In an effort to not repeat mistakes of the past, we have sourced an excellent deal on laptops that are durable, feature far superior connectivity options. Pictured is the actual model that we're looking at. Very fancy. We are still discussing purchasing strategies, but there are unfortunately caveats to any strategy in that regard. That leads us to, oh yes, exactly. So, yeah, we're good. Pardon me. So before we get into this slide, if you aren't familiar with two-factor authentication, which you may also see as 2FA, multi-factor, or MFA, here's a brief summary. In the world of security, authentication is the act of proving that you are who you say you are, and there are 3 possible factors used to do so. Something you know, like a password or PIN, something you have, like a phone or a key, and something you are, like a fingerprint or a face recognition. One major change that must be executed by the end of the next school year to maintain compliance for PACE insurance is enabling two-factor authentication to all staff email access. Currently, we and many others only use one factor, a password. 2FA requires we add another. The simplest way to do so is to configure Google so that after entering your password that only you know, a code is texted to your phone that only you have. Many of you are probably familiar with this process, as it is now mandatory for many websites, especially in finance. And that is with good reason, as it reduces the risk of a threat actor accessing your account by around 90%. Enabling this setting on our end is as simple as toggling the switch. However, some may have concerns specifically regarding privacy. Using your phone as 2FA for your Google account is safe and secure. Google does not sell that information, nor will they use your number to contact you for any reason short of specific security situations, and you can remove your number at any time.
I just want to pause there. The two-factor authentication will affect your guys' email as well.
Sure.
So,
Two-factor all the time.
okay,
Thank you.
just so you're aware.
Yes.
No problem.
All right, and with that, we aren't going to beat around the bush. Technology costs money, and it's over tomorrow. Your thoughts about it.
Okay, well, here's our nice project cost summary graph after this Band-Aid. Here we go. Our single largest expense is licensing for applications and services used around the district. This includes, but is not limited to, services like ClassLink and Canvas, special education applications, and our district phone system. A rough estimate for annual costs based on recent years is $135,000. The Government Accounting Standards Board has issued a change this year requiring that this spending be reported. And as a result, we are currently in the process of auditing our service costs, and this number is subject to change. As stated before, our data server houses nearly all of the important data for the district, and it is the final year of service and support that needs to be replaced. Initial offers were around $150,000 for an equivalent system. After reaching out to various vendors and negotiating over the course of several months, we found a need more powerful replacement with 5 years of included support for roughly $40,000. In 2028, 500 of our Chromebook devices will reach end of life and will no longer receive security updates. Replacing them all at once could approach $250,000. Our plan instead is to get ahead of the game and stage annual purchases starting this year at around $40,000 for 133 Chromebooks. This is to account for the number of incoming 8th grade students, 10% buffer for accidental damage, and 10% buffer to account for enrollment growth. Next, we have our ClearTouch machines, which have been a rousing success with teachers at Clemens Primary School. We plan to roll them out to grades 2 and 3 at the elementary school this year. Doing so will require about $36,000 for 8 units. Staff laptops. Staff laptops are nearing end of life. Many are beginning to suffer from hardware failure and need replacement. We are in discussion with how the best way to accomplish this, but a current number stands at about $78,000 for 60 brand new laptops. This should be sufficient to replace existing laptops for both the high school and middle school. Projectors across the district are very old and slowly failing. Replacement projectors are expensive, loud, inefficient, and equally unreliable. While we intend for every classroom to eventually have a ClearTouch, we have found it effective as a stopgap to replace projectors as they fail with regular televisions. When the TVs are later replaced with ClearTouches, they can be repurposed as digital signage and other similar projects. These run about $700 a unit, and we estimate roughly about 6 or so a year that we replace.
Got a question on the staff laptop. Is there any way that we can split that into 2 years so we don't have to absorb that cost all in 1 year?
Yes, yeah, that's one of the options we had discussed.
The technology group already knows that the amount of funding is far exceeds where we are, so we're gonna have to do some negotiating. But it helps to be able to put everything out on the table with a piece of knowledge. And then we can also look at other grants we can ask for some different things and stuff like that.
Well, I was just
No,
checking to
you're
make
spot
sure
on.
that, we didn't have to replace them all at the same time.
No,
Okay,
no, that's just how it was done before. They had done those 2 schools at the same
Yeah.
time, so it's not saying we have to do that again.
okay.
And then finally,
Yes. So this is actually not a lamp. Document cameras, while not nearly as popular as they once were, are still needed by many teachers. They can be incredibly expensive, around $400 for a low to medium end unit. When discussing options to replace older doc cams, now beginning to fail, our tech, Quinn, had the brilliant idea to use, in his own words, a webcam on a stick. As it turns out, not only does this setup work exceptionally well with our existing doc cam software, it features an adjustable light and a far superior image quality to the real deal. We've been testing them with a few select teachers with overwhelmingly positive responses. Ultimately, what you see here comes to around $80, a savings of 80%. The reason I wanted to bring this oddball project to your attention is because it is, in my opinion, the embodiment of what we strive to achieve as a department, identifying an immediate need, remaining open-minded to unconventional ideas, and providing effective forward-thinking solutions.
Thank you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
It's very comprehensive, yes.
They've been busy.
Thank you.
So we are back in the film.
Well, we will, yeah, just. Gotta have that talk about here, so we go back to East Valley.
I just want to chime in case the tech people are planning to leave. Can you hear me?
You'll be the next one up on the agenda here.
Thank you.
No problem. So we're gonna go back to C, the reports. Number 4 is KBCS annual report, as soon as Susan gets back.
Are you able to hear
I'm
me?
assuming you're here for softball, football field information. You're being in.
Okay. You guys want to state who you are, then we can get started.
I'm Diana Barnhart. I'm a school board representative from Kings Valley Charter School. I'm also part of our administrative team this year.
I'm Mark Hazelton, and I'm the business manager at the Kings Valley Church.
And I don't know if you just want to kind of give us a brief overview real quick, or what you want to do.
We can do that, or we can answer any questions that you may have.
I can't get into my report because I'm not connected for whatever reason, so,
If
did you
wanna
get
talk
into
about
it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Just, if you want to scroll through, that's the report starting right there on the page.
okay. Well, one question I did have is that it listed the board members, and I heard that Billy Moore is no longer on the board, or is leaving the board, or, I mean, it has nothing to do with this report, because this report was before that, but,
There is a rumor, to my knowledge, he has not officially resigned yet.
I think he has.
So, yeah, he has some.
Okay. And then I also noticed it, and I can't, like I said, I can't get to it, but it's still listed, his address is 39142 Kings Valley Highway, but I know he hasn't lived there for a while, so you guys might want to update that with this report, because it's not a current or correct address for it.
Yeah, we'll remove him from it completely.
Okay, well, no, but in this report, he was still a board member though, correct?
Yeah, he was.
Maybe.
Yeah, so, I mean, it just needs to reflect the current, with the correct address, I would think, so.
So I think we're not gonna be able to change it because it's part of the audit report,
Okay,
and it would be hard for the auditors.
yeah, well, I mean, that's just what I noticed, because he used to live right across the street from me, so.
Oh, you know where it is, yeah.
So, okay, but other than that, I mean, things look fairly good with it, I didn't.
I have no questions, you had.
Yeah.
I just had sort of a contextual question. You talked about sort of test scores and how some went down last year, and you attributed some of that to administrative coverage, because there's, like administrators have to cover for teachers occasionally. I was just wondering contextually, how do those scores compare to before the need for administrative coverage? Like when you were fully staffed up, like sort of what are the trends?
That's a very, very difficult question to answer. And you have to get into the context of what grade that was, and that was our 2-3 classroom.
Sure.
So those children before would have been in kindergarten, and it would have been during the COVID period. So it was really, really difficult to pinpoint that some of those children may not even been in school yet as kindergartners. So I cannot give you an answer based on the age group of those children and during the COVID time frame when they would have been in CDL or not even in school yet.
Okay, I'm not talking about the specific children, I'm talking about the 2 to 3, like.
Well, that's the classroom that you're speaking about, where there was administrative teachers covering that time frame.
Right, I mean, we had that classroom even before those kids were in it, right? Like, I mean, it's not, like, I'm talking about just what were the 2 to 3 scores, like, 2 years ago, so I guess as well. I can follow up with you. I'm just kind of trying to understand the trends, I guess, but yeah.
So all of those test scores, the ones in particular that you're looking at, and as far as lower, what they would have been, I can give you some information about them, but like the younger kids, the 2-3 kids, and even the 8th graders, those are coming out of COVID to where they were low, Interesting anomaly with the eighth graders, we had a huge influx of children coming to us from other school districts. Half of our eighth grade students, half of 20 kids were from a different district. And they stayed with us just that eighth grade year. So coming out of COVID, coming into a new school and then being tested, it is a really devastating result of, and a very sad result for those eighth graders. And again, when you look at that, like I said, you had 20 students. So one student is a large swift change in the results.
Yeah.
If you wanted to dig deeper into like our eighth graders, I could tell you of our eighth graders, how they tested that stayed with us or were with us before and how they got there. So if you wanted to have more detailed conversation about that. I'd be happy to.
Okay. Thank you.
I did have no questions. We have, okay. Aaron?
Aaron, do you have any questions? Aaron's joining us by.
I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can't hear.
You're muted.
No, she's not muted, we just can't hear.
No, we can't hear. Oh.
Okay, well, I guess if she had a question, we can't hear it, so.
Oh, no question on the report from me, so that was.
Oh, okay, all right. So she just texted her.
Message.
Okay, so, yeah, it's nothing. So all we have to do with this is actually just recognize that we got this report correct. Yep. Okay, so we don't have to have a vote on it or anything, just.
Did you have a question about the links?
Oh, well, and this might be something you might be able to fix, just the way this was presented to us, like there was something that linked to like a parent survey. Just in ours, it wasn't.
There were no active links in the report we
Yeah.
got, because it's just a print copy.
So I don't know if that's something you can provide or if it's something you just relook at that. That just seemed interesting.
Yeah, I can send it to Susan and she can get it distributed to you guys.
Yeah, I can do that.
Sure, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been asked to try to talk. Can you hear me now? Yay! So the only question I had in regard to Kings Valley was actually part of their audit report, which I know we're just acknowledging receipt of this evening. So I can hold that question for when the auditors are present. That might be more appropriate. But my concern was around the fact that they have over $60,000 in assets at Citizens Bank that are not protected by FDIC coverage because it's above and beyond the $250,000 that the FDIC insures. So I'll just raise that now. That might be more appropriate to discuss at our next meeting when the auditors are present in case they have additional information about that. I feel like it was perhaps something that was also mentioned previously though. So just wanted to raise that again.
We are aware of that and we have put it into our minutes to follow up and to create another account. It's not exactly an easy process to create an institution account. We have groups and the board meeting minutes that we have dynamic do it, so it's a process to do that. And we are aware that that is something to do.
Okay, that reminds me, I have a question. Your cash carryover, the balance that it showed on that audit was like $700,000. Is that accurate? But seems to me like you guys are in very superior funding, as far as doing a good job with managing your money to have that much in the cash carryover, unless I'm missing something.
So there is, we were gonna build a building, right?
Yeah.
You're still building that building,
Okay.
right? So the cash drawdown didn't happen at the speed that we expect. So we haven't paid the contractor very much money, but we were planning to pay. So we had to save the money to buy a building, essentially. So that's why there's a lot of money
No, I would just, it was a kudos to you to have that much stashed away. I mean, that's,
We've done a good job as far as set asides, maintenance set asides, property improvement set asides to the end of our charter. We are thoroughly committed to having payroll set asides, so that we have a cushion if something happens, we have enough for monthly payroll. And then we have other set asides within that budget for, like I said, maintenance or other large scale things. So we just replaced our gym roof and that cost a lot of money, so we have to squirrel away money for large scale maintenance projects.
but no, that's a compliment to what you guys are doing out there as far as financially, that you seem to be very stable and have some forethought going on and looking into the future to do things, so.
I guess, I don't know if this is directly about the, I was just curious, since you mentioned it, sort of what the timeline is for the very exciting, oh god. I just think it's a very exciting project and I'd love to see it open, as I'm sure you would. I just am curious.
It should be done, we thought it would be done, but of course, as soon as you get moving on things, you go, that would quite the way. So then you gotta go back to the county and say, you know, really and truthfully, we want our septic tank over here, and we gotta talk about that, so there's all of those things, but it'll be complete for next fall. For students to be in next fall.
Awesome.
So are you planning to replace something or just an addition?
No, it's a brand new structure.
Well, I knew that, but I mean, are you planning on, using that structure and then decommissioning something else that you already have, or just?
No, this is a completely new program. It's our CTE pathway. So we have a new CTE pathway within natural resources. And this building will house three different CTE pathways as far as agriculture, forestry, and animal husbandry. And so part of this is funded through a grant from the state of Oregon for CTE further development. So it's a new building that will house not just be a high school experience, but a K-12 experience.
So where's it gonna be housed at, on the campus, where?
It's right out, it's on the south side of the gym.
Oh, on the south side of the gym, okay.
Part of it is completed in the sense we have our outdoor pavilion, which will be our outdoor teaching classroom. And it'll be for culinary arts and gardening. We'll be able to give demonstrations and whatnot in the outdoor pavilion.
Cool, sounds like you guys saw good stuff going on right now.
Yeah. I will just say, I went out and visited in the fall and got to see sort of the very start of the building being built. And I think something that stuck with me was those three things: the animal husbandry, forestry, and agriculture. When you stand there and look at the construction project, you can also see in the distance like active managed forests and livestock and other agriculture. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that folks out there get to learn about literally what that local economy is. So it's a really cool blend. But yeah.
That is our tie to our community. 100%.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I'm done.
Jackson, do you have any questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your report. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to the turf, softball, and baseball field presentations.
Come on.
Thank you, sir. Introductions, please.
So I'm Tony Mott, I'm the assistant principal athletic director at the high school.
I'm Levi Weber, head baseball coach at the high school.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for letting us come in and present this to you. This is a project that, it started pre-COVID. We started with some initial meetings with, the then softball coach, now we have Coach King is in, we started with Coach Remington, myself, a bunch of people around the community, and we were about 2 weeks away from making this presentation, and COVID hit. And so, it kind of delayed this whole process. And then, you know, we kind of got everything, our ducks in a row after finally having our first real year back last year, and kind of getting everything going. So, you know, we kind of dubbed this project Rolling Out the Carpet, you know, because that's kind of, you know, what we're trying to do is put some turf on our baseball field, on our softball field, because it's much needed, for multiple different reasons. So, you know, like it says up there, it's turf, but it's bigger than turf. Obviously, you know, the main part of this is the turfing of both the baseball and softball infields. Part of what we're also looking to do on the baseball field, we're gonna move both of our bullpens. Right now, both bullpens sit at the ends of each of the home and visitors dugout. We're looking to move those down the lines. You can kind of see as you go down foul territory, that would be where the new bullpen for the visitors is, down left field, and down the right field line is where we're looking to put the new bullpen for the home side. And, you know, in moving those, what we'll be able to do is create some new spectator areas. Because if any of you guys have been to a baseball game, you would know that the majority of the spectators that aren't right behind the home plate are in each of the bullpens, which makes it a little bit challenging for pitchers trying to get warm in the middle of an inning when you gotta shoe out tents and chairs and spectators and stuff like that. So it'll give us a better spot for those. Part of what we're gonna do with the spoils out of digging out of the infield, in the baseball field, is we're gonna take a lot of that and move it into the outfield. If you've ever been out in the outfield, it's very, very rough grade as far as there's a lot of undulation. It's not super flat. So we're gonna go out there, regrade it. So it's nice and flat, and then we're gonna add some drainage. As you can kind of see behind the outfield fence, there's that bike path, which is a great bike path, but what that did to our outfield was it created a dam for the natural drainage that we had, the surface drainage. And so essentially, since that bike path went in about 2014 or 15, it's created kind of chaos in our outfield early in the season. So we don't get the runoff like we used to into the wetlands area over by the park. And so we're looking to put some drainage in, so that way the field drains how it needs to be. So, you know, not only infield's playable, but the outfield is too.
So there are any drains under the bike path right now?
No.
And I'm glad I don't know this, but where does the school district's property end and the city's property? Like, do we?
I think it's right on the other side of that bike path.
So the school's own bike path?
Yeah, I believe so. Schools are the one who put it in. It was part of the safe routes to school. We did the bond measure and everything. And then the last thing is replacing / adding fencing around the majority of our field. Obviously, with moving the bullpens, we'd add some fencing to kind of enclose those areas, and, you know, keep the people safe that are in the bullpens. And then the outfield fence, it's probably close to 30 or 40 years old. We've been hanging signboards on them for the last 35, 40 years. And if you go out there, a lot of the concrete is starting to pull up, and the outfield fencing is in dire need of repair. So that's kind of what we're looking to do on the baseball field.
And this wouldn't modify the existing like grandstand?
No, the grandstand, everything would stay intact as it is now, basically from the dugouts back. Well, basically, the only thing we're changing is everything out there. Once you get out past the dugouts with the grandstand and all that stuff, would stay intact as is right now. For the softball field, obviously we're going to turf our infields, turf the infield there. You know, again, so it's much more playable. Another big piece for the softball program is putting in a new scoreboard. their scoreboard has been in need of replacement or repair for the last, I don't know, probably 10 years or so. And the repairs to do what needs to be done on what's there now is probably close to 50% of what it would cost to just get a whole scoreboard. So we look to get something a little bit bigger and better, similar to what we have over on the baseball field, to kind of even things out and tidy up their space a little bit. Also looking to add home and visitors bullpens. Right now, they have no, especially on the home side, they don't have anywhere to warm up during the games. So they're gonna warm up, like if they need to go get a pitcher ready, they gotta send them over to the football field, because they got no area right there at the field. So it's very, very important to put in a new bullpen slash warm-up area for them on either side.
Sorry.
The other thing that they're looking to do, another thing they're looking to do is to expand their visitors dugout to make it more similar to what the varsity is as far as size-wise. Raise it up. As it is now, it sits below grade for what the field is. So standing water in the dugout, the roof is very low, and as Travis has said, if you jump up, you're going to get stuck in the head with a roofing nail because the roofs are so low and there's so many roofing nails sticking down there. So it's not a great spot for the visitors, so give them a little better space, and then also to add some storage as you move out towards the outfield side of their dugout, so they can store stuff like turfus, four-wheeler, field supplies and stuff like that, so it's in a much easier area for them to get to. And then the last thing, with taking all this dirt, and that's one of the big conversations we've had. Dennis Gibson's one of the guys who's been there, and one of his big things is, what are we gonna do with all the dirt? Because we gotta go down 10 to 12 inches to take out all the dirt. Well, one thing we all, in our last couple of meetings was, well, how about we take that and put it into the outfield of the JV softball field? Because the JV softball field sits on the southeast corner of the football field. It's that the softball field's right there, which is essentially the lowest point, or one of the lowest points on campus. So water just goes away from the middle school, pools up right there, and that field's usually not playable until June, luckily, hopefully, if it's playable in June. So by raising up the outfield, putting some perimeter drainage in the outfield to get that water to kind of disperse, our hope is to make that JV field much more playable. And they don't have to go all the way down to field 3, which is all the way down by the middle school, but it can be a lot more congruent for them as far as, where their teams are playing, and they essentially get another field playable just by running this project. So that's what we're looking to do. That's the scope of the project. Obviously, it's a big project, so there's a lot of costs that are going to need to be incurred. This is just kind of a breakdown of what all the costs are. Essentially, just to do the infields for both, when you're talking about the turf and the subgrade costs, it's just a shade under $385,000 to get all that in, which it's a pretty good chunk of change. And then you throw in the extras that we were talking about, moving our bullpens, the fences, and the drainage in the outfield, the baseball field, and then the bullpens, the fencing, the new dugout and shed in the softball field, and the JV softball field, and the scoreboard. That runs a total up to about just shy of $600,000. And that's if we just went out and paid what it costs market value, and we're not planning to do that because we have a pretty awesome community that has some pretty good resources that can help us out with a lot of these costs. But if you're going to go out and pay somebody to do it, and just sit back and let them do it, then that's what the cost is. That's what we're looking at there. So it's a pretty hefty deal, that's for sure. So how do we get there? Our fundraising plan, obviously we're going to look at grants. Tony's told us the district has been, that now we have access to a grant writer, which should help us out in getting that process going. There's a lot of grants out there for this type of project, and you're talking about turfing, athletic fields, and doing things, and not just for the high school, but for the community as a whole. That's the one thing that this will do, is it'll allow much more use of our facilities, rather than just during the high school season, but throughout the summertime, throughout the winters. With the baseball field being right outside the gym, they can take classes out there and do some stuff out there. So a lot of opportunity for that. Obviously, local business partners, you know, in a project like this, we're gonna go out and talk to a lot of the people in the community, other community stakeholders, private people, you know, who are interested, and we've had some of those conversations. In-kind donations, like I said, with some of the rock work, the subgrade work, materials for that type of stuff, getting it donated. Fundraisers, obviously we'll sit down and look at a couple different big fundraisers we can do to try to get this thing going. And then the last thing would be kind of a crowdsourcing thing, is sending it out, you know, just kind of to, you know, alumni. I know we have the abilities now to set things up to where we can, you know, send out an email, click on this link, and they can just, you know, donate via credit card or debit card, or just straight into an account here in the district. You know, $50 here, $100 there, $200 there. You know, you start pulling all that together when we're talking about, you know, casting a wide net. We feel that it's a viable and it's something, you know, something we can definitely do. And then, so in doing so, the recognition of our sponsors, we've gone through donor levels. This is something we set up as we're getting this project going. You know, we have 5 different levels, Grand Slam being the highest, 10,000 above. It'll get you a sign. On the field house, our plan is to do similar like we've done with our field house sponsors. So when we built the field house back in 2012, we have a couple big signboards up for that, and that's similar. We'll put whoever these people are and those signs, we'll put that on that side, so that way it's not on the baseball side or the softball side, but as you're driving around the loop in the fire lane right there, you'll be able to see all the people who contributed to this project. The Grand Slam will get you a 3x6 sign, a home run will get you a 2x4 sign, and then the triple, double, and the single will make a big sign that you know, recognizes all those people. And then in the fine print at the bottom, anybody who donates, you know, $500 or more will get a plaque for their business or their house, or, you know, something to commemorate them and their help with this project. Our target date is you know, we're looking to hopefully break ground on this in June of 2025. So obviously, June of 2024, excuse me, that's wrong. Next year, I think in 2025 is the first year we're gonna play on it. So we looked to break ground in 2024 on it. So about a year and a half out from now. So that way we can hopefully get all that stuff, start getting to work on it in June 2024, get all that stuff knocked out that summer, and then come around the next spring, we're able to get onto it in 2025 and use the field, you know, like we should be able to. And then the last piece, you know, we will build it if you know, as a district will commit. Because the one thing about turf, and the thing a lot of people don't realize when you're doing a turf field, is it's not a permanent thing. It's not something that it's there and it's done. You know, it's something that it's going to have to be replaced down the line. And talking to Joey, kind of the budget for his field maintenance stuff is right around $10,000. Our hope is maybe a little bit more out of that from the district, somewhere between 15 and 20K a year set aside to help build that, you know, that nest egg. So in 10 to 15 years, when we have to go and replace these fields, it might not cover the whole cost of the thing, but hopefully it'll knock out a good chunk of that. And then when we, you know, turn around and we have to replace all these fields, we're not having to go back through this, you know, same gigantic fundraising process that we did. Obviously, I don't know when the next bond measure comes in, or if there is one, or what it is. You know, as a coach, I know that's one thing that was a little frustrating with the last one, is the only outside facility that got touched was our batting cage, because they had to demolish the one that was there. So we rebuilt that one. You know, so hopefully, you know, if there was another bond measure, maybe this is something that gets written in, you know, as far as money that can get set aside for this going forward, and obviously other projects, you know, as we go. So, but that, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. You know, and our hope tonight is coming in here with this is, you know, we just get your guys' blessing to go out and make this project a reality. I mean, I think we have enough enough momentum, enough community support, enough people around that would like to see this happen, and enough people that, you know, would really benefit from this, so we can make it a viable thing and, you know, give our student athletes and students and community kids a great place to be.
So I get the 15,000-20,000 a year you'd like to see the district put aside. What are you hoping the district will do additionally?
Well, that was the thing is, we talked to Joey, and Joey said about, what, 10? Is that what he?
About 10,000 a year on the watering and the mowing and the lining and the turf, all that stuff to keep it playable in the weather we have, you know, in that surface. So initially, nothing, right? What we would like is a commitment that yes, 10, 12, 15 years when it's replaced, we've set aside the district set aside some funds that will cover a large percentage of that. Because when you replace the turf, basically you're rolling up the carpet, the subsurface is all there, all the subgrade work is done, and you roll out the new turf.
Roll out the carpet, you're done.
Yeah. So looking at, I guess for lack of a better way to put it, this group of guys, some of the people that really are committed to this project, don't want to do this again 10 years from now, right? They want to be able to do this once and have a commitment from the district that, hey, we'll be able to save some money so that, let's say in 2035, if it's $400,000 to replace the turf in that span of time, you've saved at least half of that, so it's not a big hit.
Yeah.
And in terms of replacement. There will be minor stuff that the teams will absorb in terms of batter's box and stuff like that wear quicker than the rest of it. But as far as what, we just want permission to go out and tell people what we want to do and ask them to help. Yeah.
So you don't need us to do anything with this page. This is just sort of the estimate of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, just
Okay.
that way, just so you guys can see what we did.
Unless you want to write a check.
Well, I was gonna say, I would gladly accept.
Well, I can write a check, but it'd be the wrong sport. You have to play basketball.
I guess I just had a couple quick questions. The first was, you mentioned the presentation was ready to go right before COVID hit. Are these cost estimates?
No, these are
Current.
Okay, because I know things have gotten a lot more expensive.
Yeah, all these numbers are as of about a week ago.
Great,
2 weeks
okay.
ago, yeah.
And then I guess just, I understand that putting aside 15 to 20 to replace, what about the year-to-year maintenance costs of the turf itself? Do you have any idea what that would cost us?
I mean, that's something that us as a program, because we fundraise like crazy already.
Okay.
I mean, every year we fundraise, thousands and thousands of dollars.
So there wouldn't be a notice?
No, it's one of those things that you probably every 1 to 2 years, you're gonna have to replace the pitcher mound area, the batter's box and stuff like that. But those are like, $500 to $1,000 projects. They're not big projects. It's not like ripping out a giant piece. It's just, those things are just, you cut out a box, you throw it out a big piece of turf and most likely we'll already have all that turf from the leftovers, the extras, and then we'll find a place to store it, and then that way when we need to patch and repair. And the person who's gonna do the turf is Ryan Starwalt, who lives up on Red Hill, so, I mean, he's not like he's a hard guy to get down to the field if he needs some work on the thing, so.
He's also an alum.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
And the amount of money, I know for softball alone, that we put into the field every single year, just the infield alone, with chopping and the turf that we add, tons of turf every year to it, just to keep it playable. It's gonna, with us fundraising, we'll be able to cover a lot of that.
It'll probably be cheaper, less expensive.
Oh, yes.
To maintain the turf than it is to maintain what you have now.
This climate.
Expensive and time.
Yeah.
What was that?
Expensive and time.
Yeah,
The
well,
amount of
yeah.
time it takes.
Yeah. We do our own work on the field, so
Yeah.
it's.
No, I
Yeah.
get
So
it.
it will save a lot of time and not traveling as much either.
Yeah, probably, from my perspective, one of the biggest benefits of doing a project like this is I'm not scrambling on a Monday trying to find these guys a bus when they're rained out at home. And Staten says, well, we have turf come play at our, we'll use a home game, which is big, right? And then we're trying to find transportation and make sure they're communicating with everybody, that, hey, this game's moved locations. right? And so, you know, there was a span last year, we had 2 weeks where we couldn't play a game on our fields. And, you know, and then it backs up, and it's not good for kids to play, you know, we had a softball game every day. Well, you gotta play a game, there's no rest for your arms, there's no, hey, we can fix this mistake we made, we don't have time to practice, because now we're making up games every single day of the week. And it becomes a, you know, it's obviously we did it, but it's not great for kids, and it's not great for the program, because, you know, you're playing, like, we go to state, they have turf infield, they don't have to play every day, so they get that rest, and we don't. And it impacts, you know, the outcome. But, you know, I think for kids, and we did a similar project like this when I was in Albany, we did it on our football field, right? We did it without, it was all grassroots, right? And so we went out and we actually created a website, which was called Turf for Kids, and you can make your online donation through Turf for Kids. And the thing we talked about was, it's not just, in that case, it wasn't just a football field, right? It was a community field where the PE classes could go out there. You know, you can't take your PE class out today, you know, out something in the grass, because it's gonna be muddy. But if you have, you know, if you have a softball unit, you can go out and work on softball skills or baseball skills this time of year when it's, you know, it warms up a little, but it's still wet. Well, now it's usable still, you know, and so I think it would, you know, transportation wise, last year we probably incurred more transportation costs based on the fact we couldn't play at home. So in the big picture of things, I think it allows us to be playable way more often. I mean, there's sometimes when even turf isn't playable, it's so wet, but, you know, and then the improvement to the facility in terms of bringing up like the softball scoreboards on there, right? We're fixing it now, right, with an expense, I don't know what that was, Jennifer, $4,800 or so, something like that. And the guy's like, you know, I can't believe you're fixing this thing. Well, it has to be fixed before, you know, so we can play games this spring, have a scoreboard. But you look in terms of, you know, what it looks like in comparison to the baseball scoreboard, right? So we go out and we find, you know, something that's similar in size and stature, so there's equity between the two, and it represents the community and what we can do. I think that's a pretty important thing. The thing I've noticed in my 5 years here is that people are really generous when it comes to the schools. So they want to do what's best for kids. And so, you know, I look at that number and go, you know, what was it in the spring of 2020?
Well, we didn't have all, it was right around 400, I think is what we're looking at.
You know, so that pandemic's gonna cost us a little, right? Well, not a little, another third, right? You know, and then, but I think in this community, it's doable, right? In terms of, we can go out and talk to people and you know, and raise that money and get the in-kind donations that bring it to where it can be a reality. And, you know, it can be, you know, and then at some point, obviously, you know, I'm sure people are gonna ask, what about the stadium, right? And I think we'll get there eventually too. That's probably 3 times that, right? But, you know, eventually, but, you know, people ask me as a former football coach, I say, well, these guys started that process, and we're not gonna jump ahead of them with a different project when they were ready to go in March of 2020, so.
Yeah.
I think that's great work.
You guys said Joey figured is 10 to 15,000 is what he spends on maintenance. Is that just to the baseball fields, or is that district wide?
I believe that's just baseball softball.
We spend probably $4,000 a year on turfus through the, you know, in the diamond dries, that was still called, right? That you put out when it's wet.
Yeah.
Right, so that, we order pallets of that stuff.
I'm just trying to get an idea if that was district wide or pretty much just kind of a trade-off between that 15 to 20,000 as opposed to the 10 to 15 that he's just putting into the baseball fields now, or if it's district wide. So
It goes to like pretty much all the fields. I mean, well, softball uses about half the field over there, so it's like whatever one's playable. So they go to all those out there, the JV field, the varsity field, like it's kind of for all the baseball, softball.
Or a league if we don't use it.
well, I mean, we as a board have to make a decision, you know, of the money and how it's best spent. and everything. So I like to get an idea if we're trading dollars or if we're taking out of one pool to supplement the other one or whatever. We have to be cognizant of that too. So Erin has a question, so.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if it's a question or a comment or a quiment, but I look at the number, and obviously our athletics are incredibly important to our students' development and progress and involvement in the schools. But when I look at a figure that is, we'll just round it to $600,000. It feels, I guess I'll just say it's about 10 times the amount of money that we spend on some of our curriculum for an entire school for a subject. And I know that you're not asking the board to fund that, but I wouldn't feel good about myself if I didn't raise a concern about just how much money that is. And additionally, I think it would be good if we, as part of our long-term facilities planning committee, if we could have an idea of these sorts of projects as well as other things, so that when we are doing large fundraising through the community, that we have an idea of how many different things we're fundraising for. How many times are we going to the well of these incredibly generous, wonderful community partners and asking them to keep giving us money for different projects? So just as somebody who sits on that facilities committee, that would be something that would be very beneficial, is to just have an idea. I know that the cheerleading team, for example, has been fundraising to buy safety equipment for their team, to buy safety mats. And it's only like $10,000, and they've been fundraising for 2 years. And I think they're about to meet or just met their goal finally. So just looking at it from an equity lens as well, different sports or sports clubs, kind of like, do we have a line? Like, do we have an order of who's asking for things? And I apologize if you're hearing noise in the background. I have a new puppy. He's a little bit crazy, and he is chewing on a very loud toy just out of my reach of taking it away from him, of course. Again, not really a specific question so much as a request. And then if I could get that report also emailed to me, and I think Karen as well, that would be so helpful, since I don't have a print copy in front of me. And obviously I looked at the slide deck, but I like to have something to refer back to later. Thank you.
Okay.
So I think that's a good point. The last big project was the refurbishing of the grandstands in the storage building out there. And all of our programs obviously raise money in terms of different things that they do. And we're really conscious about going back to the well, so to speak, and being conscious of, when we have a large donor in this project, for example, that we won't go back to that donor for signboards in the outfield, right? Some of those sort of things. There'll be a 10-year window where baseball and softball are going to go back to those people and say, hey, we're interested. Would you like to, renew your signboard? And I think overall, we're always going to be raising money, right, in terms of each program and the individual things they want, like the cheer mats or when it comes time to replace the pole vault mats or whatever it is. And we're pretty conscious of the things that we go out and ask for.
I guess I just have one quick clarification, which is that, if this is going to be 10 years down the road or something, how long do you think it would be until it needs to be replaced?
10 to 15 years.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to make clear on the record that we can all decide it's worth putting away $15,000 to $20,000 a year if we want, but we will not be the board in 15 to 20 years, so we cannot fully guarantee that the district will put away that amount of money every year. Like, we can't obligate the district to do that right now. So I just want us to consider that this will be a cost down the road, but the three of us can't guarantee that, the future boards will still want to do that. I guess as far as Erin's concerns, I get where she's coming from. I guess as far as I'm concerned, if this is not taxpayer money, go wild and get us the money. And my concern on this board is sort of what we spend the people's money on. And we are not a part of this figure as far as you've told us. So I understand the whole thing about the well, but this board does not control the well.
Well, to an
Just the
extent,
wells.
but
Sorry.
once we get into the maintenance part of it, then we are.
Yes, I know, and I'm, that's why
So
I'm talking
we're
about that,
committed
part, which is
in
this
this.
600,000, which.
Yeah, so we're committed in this, if we say, yeah, we want them to do that, they go ahead and do it, then we're committed to.
Oh, absolutely,
maintain it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there is a commitment from the district.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah.
But not a financial commitment
Right.
at this point, but down the
We
road.
already have a commitment to maintain those facilities
Yeah,
anyway, so,
yeah, but, just so that everybody understands.
Yes, no, and that's what I was trying to say earlier, just
Yeah.
about like, we can't.
So, okay,
promise
but
what-
I think it's a great idea if we can make it work. I get behind it.
do we need a motion?
No, I don't think we need a motion, we're just, this is just a report from them, and,
Barring major disagreement with you, then go for it.
yeah, basically, it's just a commitment from the board saying, go ahead and go for it. I don't have a problem with it, I don't know about the other two. Aaron, do you have? Nope, okay,
All right, that's.
we got 4 of us that go ahead, so good luck.
Awesome, we appreciate it.
Thank
guys
you for all your
your
work.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for all your time that you spent
Yes.
in the past and you're gonna be doing in the future, and so.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll all be out there doing something.
Thank you. All right,
Thank you
thank
very
you. You guys have a
Pray,
good
pray
night.
for good weather this week.
Thank you all. And I will hopefully see my name on one of those bricks or signs or something in the future. So, thank you.
Okay, so now we've done 5, none, 6, nothing, 7, let's see, we did 7. Technology, we're done. Association reports, PEA. Lynn.
John saying that we're, looking forward to starting collaborative negotiations for our next contract.
Okay, great, thank you. OSEA. I didn't think so, but I just did give them the opportunity. Superintendent's report. Yeah.
Just a couple of things that I wanted to be able to make sure that we shared. I'll kind of reverse these ones. School counselor, National School Counseling Week was February 6th through 10th, so it was last week, to highlight the impact of our school counselors and being able to be very supportive of them. And also we have upcoming, and typically we wait until the end of the month that it's recognized in and never get fully to what we need to do. And so we wanted to be able to put on the docket for this time the recognition of our classified staff members, which won't be celebrated until March 6th through 10th, but that's ahead of our next meeting. And so wanted to be able to acknowledge and ask for the board's commitment to this resolution. Whereas the education of youth is essential to the future of our community, state, country, and world, and whereas classified employees are the backbone of our public education system, and whereas classified employees work directly with students, educators, parents, volunteers, business partners, and community members, and whereas classified employees support the smooth operation of offices, the safety and maintenance of buildings and property, and the safe transportation, healthy nutrition, and direct instruction of students. And whereas our community depends upon and trusts classified employees to serve students. And whereas classified employees with their diverse talents and true dedication nurture students throughout their school years. Now therefore be it resolved that the Philomath School District Board of Directors proclaims March 6th through 10th, 2023 to be Classified Employee Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the Philomath School District Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join in this observance, recognizing the dedication and hard work of these individuals.
Thank you. And thank you to the classified people.
Last month you wanted an update on the Downing Forest. And it's just a reminder that the windstorms in December really took a toll on the trees out there in Downing Forest, right by the middle school. And our facilities staff immediately closed off the area to be able to close off access because there were trees down both along the cross-country path, trees down in the center core of the forest, and trees precariously perched, to which we wanted to be able to make sure that we have nothing that falls on anyone to cause any damage. On Friday, the 6th of January, we walked the property. Simon Babcock from the high school, a forestry teacher, Joey DiGiovanangelo, our facilities director, myself, Dick Powell, who is retired from Starker Forest, but he's also a member of the Natural Resources Advisory Committee that works with Simon, and Ryan Vaughn from our maintenance department. And what we wanted to do was really to ask what makes the most sense. Do we leave things as they are? Do we clear it out? Do we cut down? What do we do? We also know that since the easement work on Chapel, it removed the anchor stand of trees nearest to Chapel Drive. And a part of that has made the interior setup of the trees become a little bit more vulnerable. If you didn't know, that is it originally grew as a tree farm. And so if you look at some, and this was news to me, you could see some of the branches on the trees move this direction to this direction. And it's quite interesting to be able to see it. And so between all of us being able to take a look at what makes the most sense, but also wanting to make sure we're planning for the future of the student-used forest area, that we're taking care of what we need to do. So we have at this point reached out to Miller Timber and to request assistance with the cleanup. I also called Starker Forests initially, and both agencies, like I said, were out cleaning up their own forests. And so they really didn't have time for us. But we've been reaching out and will continue to reach out. We know that we have a spring and summer season where that area gets walked through more. We know we have a spring track season where we have students that run through there. And aside from the fact of keeping specifically students in Simon Babcock's forestry classes, that we need to make sure it's a safe space for them to be able to go and to be. So the work right now is to make sure that we can get someone to be able to come in and help us to clean up the area to ensure the safety. And as we plan for future planting, we also had some conversation about the type of tree and as well as the separation distance between the trees that are there. When it was set up to be a tree farm, some of the trees were pretty close together. And so not a lot of chance to grow out. And so it gives us an opportunity to really take a look at some additional learning as students look to replant in that area, to think about the kinds of trees and what distance is and what it means in terms of how it's set up. And so I'm hopeful that that's the update we're looking for to be able to make sure that we know what's happening in the forest. I also have just some pictures, and I'll put the other pictures up there so you can see that there are a number of trees that are down. In the bottom picture on the right, those are actually root balls of some of the trees that had come up. So they're pretty significant in terms of their size. And so, thank you. There are, like I said, trees like in that bottom right that were clearly down. and other ones that have just been precariously standing. And since then, we've gone out there and seen some that have completely fallen down. And so that's why the urgency to be able to make sure we can get those things cleaned up.
Can any of the cleanup be safely done by the forestry program?
Not at this point. We don't want to do that.
Okay.
They've talked about replanting and being able to work with what's there, which is really nice. But the idea of being able to get people through there that know what they're doing, to be able to make sure that we can do the cleanup and to do it safely is what we really wanted. So that's where we are right now. Let's see. The Valley Coast Superintendents Association, our regional superintendents are meeting tomorrow at Clemens Primary School. So we will have that group here with us. Their monthly meetings are hosted by different member school districts throughout the year. And part of that is that LBL does not have a home this year because they're doing construction in their own facility. And so they move things around a little bit. And as you heard earlier this evening from our technology folks, we're going to get a chance to look at the ClearText panels that have been put in as a part of Clemens Primary School. Technology also talked about synergy, and we're continuing to make sure that we can do the validations of data to be able to make that particular move. And it's a pretty big lift, but we've got some great people that are making their way through it, which is really, really nice. The OSBA Get On Board was just a repeat of last month with our 2 positions on the school board. I put in our request to bargain, like Len had said, that PEA has submitted their letter of intent to enter into bargaining a successor agreement. And we've been provided with possible meeting dates to consider. And to let you know that the district team is represented by Steve Bell, who's the principal at Philomath Middle School, Abby Couture, the principal at Clemens Primary School, Karen Skinkus, a board member, and Rick Wells, our board chair, and myself. So, like I said, we're looking forward also to a collaborative process to be able to begin collaborating to a successor agreement and being able to make that happen. So. We've talked a lot about the programs for aligning student success and the integrated guidance. That document will come before you in March to approve. It is due the end of March, and so we'll need to make sure that that approval happens. We do now have 23 through 25 estimates of the funding that we will get in each of these accounts and being able to move forward in that. This year I'm taking the board schools, which mirror, the superintendent and district goals that really mirror what we set up in our consolidated district improvement plan, and being able to have those targets move forward. We'll look at the different activities, and then from the budget sheet, it's really about what is our activity. So one of the activities we've done this year, for instance, is the student investment account has paid for the fees for students to participate in athletics at the middle school and high school. So we could put as an activity middle school and high school athletic fees. I just put in a couple of the targets that the state has. The H&S is for health and safety. The second one has to do with instructional time, well-rounded education. So we can look at what those targets are and then be able to say we can use X dollars of CTE funding, of any of the funding sources that we have out there to be able to meld some things together as we may need. The specific part of this plan is that it's not new money. It's money that we've had for the last couple of years, and it's money that's been budgeted. And its designs are about academic growth, social emotional learning, and being able to make sure that you address, that we address traditionally underrepresented students and groups. And so That's going to be a key for us in terms of as we look at how we've spent those funds before and how we will continue to spend those funds. So stay tuned, there'll be more on that one. Rotary Salmon and Jazz is back. It's going to happen this Saturday at Philomath High School. The Philomath High School Jazz Band will be playing. For our board members, I've got 7 tickets sitting here if somebody wants a ticket to be able to go. And would love to have people there as it's coming back after a 2-year hiatus. I also put up again the board work session to talk about trimester versus semester. I don't meet again. Len and I don't meet until the 1st of March. And I want to be able to coordinate with him about particular dates so that we can come back to this group to be able to make sure, but I didn't want to make suggestions without having first the opportunity to talk about it.
Would those dates possibly be at our March meeting?
It could be, but that's one of the things that I want to be able to make sure that we can talk about. So that's my report.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Eric?
Shaking her head no.
Okay. Let's see. Financial report.
Try not to take long, it's been
Okay.
4 meetings so far. Susan, Steve Bell, and I went to a budget symposium put on by OASBO, the Oregon Association of School Administration, and learned some great things about the upcoming budget year. Talked about legislative agendas and the many bills that are out there and how everybody is advocating for school fundings. And so that was pretty informative, and we'll have some good information to share at our budget work session that's next month. And that would be good to hear. We did hear that the governor released her proposed budget with the $9.9 billion estimate for school funding, which is higher than what was originally anticipated at 9.5. At the 9.9 funding level, our allocation will be slightly higher than what we got this year. We don't anticipate a lot higher, so that makes it a little more, a little easier to absorb costs, but it's not going to be enough to cover all increases. We're hoping that maybe she will still bump it up. There's talk about 10 or 10.1 billion, so that does help a little bit. So we have some work to do, I think. Another thing I mentioned, that the high school boiler replacement was completed, and because we applied for the energy incentives, we got a pretty good chunk back for the price of that, so that was great. Enrollment in the district is still holding steady. I hope to stay that way for the rest of the year, and using similar numbers, a little bit less going into next year, just anticipating maybe a lower kindergarten class. Hoping to stay steady, but we'll see. Let's see what else. We applied for a facility grant to help offset the cost of the projects we did here for the Golden Academy. The state releases a facility grant every year. There's a biannual allocation, and it's usually opened up for districts that just passed a bond. They can apply for the facility grant the next year. But for remodels and some new construction, they'll allow you to apply for it. So we'll see. It's a competitive grant opportunity, so we'll see what are chosen. It wouldn't cover the full amount, but they do a percentage of your project cost. So another place where we're trying to scrape together every little bit. And then, like Susan mentioned, the auditors will be here next month. Unfortunately, they couldn't come to present our audit, although it's complete and finalized and reported to the state. So if you have any questions about that giant document that's in our book reports.
The new board date, meeting date for next month?
Yeah, I shared it with them, so they have it on their schedule. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'll share.
Barry, do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. I have one green card here, but I'll read this real quick. Public comment statement. Welcome to the meeting of your school board. Philomath school board of directors value the opinions and input of students, staff, parents, and community members. Although board meetings are held in public, they are not meetings of the public. The board may allow public comment and questions during the meeting, but it's not legally required to do so. During the meeting tonight, we will be taking public comment. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If you intend to speak to the board this evening, you'll need to fill out one of the green comment cards located near the door. Excuse me, to hand it to the board's executive assistant, Michelle McCray. Public comment may also be made via Zoom, and the executive assistant was notified by 3 p.m. today of your intention to participate. Please be respectful in your comments as you direct them to the board. When you are called up to speak, move to the table, small table in front of the board, state your full name, address prior to sharing. So, I have one card here, Camille Kaplan. And it is about classified employee pay schedule.
So for those who don't know, my name is Camille Kaplan. I have 2 kids in the district, an 8th grader and a freshman. I have also been substitute teaching since October with a restricted teaching license, mostly at the middle school, but also some at the high school and a little at elementary school. My comment tonight is both personal and professional, and I'm also a somewhat regular school board meeting observer. It wasn't quite anticipating this size of an audience, so I didn't wear my red shirt. I didn't get the memo, but I want to say fully in support of all the licensed staff. So thanks for coming. Okay, so while subbing, I've worked closely with many different classified staff employees. They have been a tremendous source of support for me personally, but I also see the positive impact they have on students every day. The classified employees that I've worked with are extremely dedicated, hardworking, dependable, innovative, compassionate, caring, and kind. I could literally spend the next hour talking about them and singing their praises. I'm also well aware that classified jobs are not easy. They are not positions well suited for recent high school graduates or people interested in just showing up and doing only the barest minimum. The positions require skills and experience, and most people in those positions have undergraduate degrees. They are so important to the basic functioning of our educational system, as was stated in that appreciation of classified staff. So you guys know all this. So I've been aware of all that for some time, but only recently did I take a good hard look at the classified employee pay schedule. With all due respect, the classified pay schedule is an embarrassment to the district. Starting pay for an instructional assistant is $15.87 per hour. As I'm sure you're all well aware, that's nowhere near a living wage for someone in our community. I suspect these wage standards were set up a long time ago, where the assumption was that classified employees were members of 2-income households with a breadwinner at home, and the classified wage was just functioning as supplemental income. But the reality is that is not the case for many current classified employees, and it's not the case for many highly qualified potential classified employees who can't even seriously consider taking one of these jobs because they can't afford to dedicate their lives to a job that pays just over minimum wage. I'm 100% sure that these very low wages are affecting the quality and diversity of new applicants, as well as the retention rate for current classified employees. I don't feel great about being the kind of person who gives my little rant about how the district should be spending a lot more money on something without offering tangible solutions for where the money should come from. I'm well aware from many school board meetings that the pot of money just isn't big enough to go around as is. And I know that budget negotiations are coming up. Apparently everyone knows that, which is good. So I just haven't seen a lot of representation from or advocacy for classified staff at school board meetings recently. I feel like it is important to put in a good word so that appreciation and compensation for classified staff remains top of mind for you when you're making difficult budgeting decisions. I want to say in no uncertain terms, classified staff deserve more money. They have earned it. Please try your best to make that happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. discussion, there's nothing in that, discussion and action items. Number one, approval of the 23-25 LBL ESD local service plan.
And you have that in your packet.
Yeah.
And the only significant change going into this year's plan is the addition of cybersecurity as a tier 1 support. And in the ESD's language, a tier 1 action is something that all districts participate in. And so the resource used for that is a piece of that money is taken from our ESD funds for every district. So to give you a for instance, last year, Lincoln County School District moved to Synergy, the student information system, a year ahead of us. So because the LBL student information system was part of a tier 1 service, Lincoln County actually paid of their tier 1 dollars for the LBL student information system, which they never used, and used the rest of their money to be able to launch a year early their involvement into Synergy. When we went to, as a district, Power School a number of years ago, that was our deal, is we had to pay through our tier 1 dollars for student information system support that we didn't use because we used Power School instead. So that gives you an idea of the tier 1 and everybody's commitment to it. We have been paying this year a portion of our tier 2 dollars, which we have flexibility to spend on cybersecurity and being able to do a cybersecurity audit. When you heard tonight about the 2-factor authentication and the shoring up of the firewall and all kinds of things like that, those are all pieces and parts of the audit that we will come back to the board with, because we have some systems we need to put in place. So for us, that particular change isn't a hit for us because we're doing it already. It just got moved into something that everybody's doing instead of a choice of who wants to be in or not. When we think about what the impacts are if somebody's security is breached, it's quite extensive, and education has been a target that folks go after. You know, they don't have that much money in the education system, so therefore we're going to try to hack into their systems instead of going for a private business and things like that. So that's a lot to say that the local services that we have available to us are the same as they were when we approved the last service plan, with the exception of the addition of the cybersecurity. And we have an obligation to be able to approve that plan. That the ESD board approved it, and they need approval from each of the component districts as points of reference to be able to move forward. So I would ask that, I mean, first of all, if there's any questions, but also would then ask that we vote on approval of this local service plan.
Aaron, do you have any questions?
No, in fact, I move that we approve the proposal.
Okay,
A second.
is there any further discussion, any questions? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, the motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
Thank you.
The next thing you had was the approval of the alternative education program. When you're in the world of alternative education, you look at an annual approval of what your plan is and what you're doing. And so the documents you had in your packet have to do with all the requirements of being able to put together that particular plan and how things are being served. Yeah.
Christian.
I just had a question about, it looks like we are in compliance with everything, but there's a category for exemplary, and I was wondering what's stopping us from being exemplary?
I think that being new is a part of it. I also think that when we look at attendance of students participating, it's an interesting setup for, I mean, yesterday I was meeting with Dan Johnson, and Jennifer House came by and said, I think we need to go to this house and visit for a student that's not showing up. And that's kind of what they do. So the idea would be, let's work toward exemplary to be able to get us there. Good question.
That's all I got.
Okay. So we need to vote on this?
Yes, please.
All right. Your motion?
I move that we approve or accept, what do you?
It would be approved.
Okay, that we approve the alternative education program for Plymouth Academy for the Plymouth School District.
A second. Okay, been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-0, 1 absent. Let's see, approval of the financial audit, which we have noted that we accept it. We got it, and next month we will be hearing from the auditors and actually vote to accept it.
One note real quick, the very last page in the electronic version, it's not in the paper version. At the top of that page, which is page 309 and 354, huge report, it says Plymouth School District number 17J, Sheridan, Oregon. They probably cut and pasted from something else and they didn't change that one thing. I just happened to notice that that's the very last page, right before the 309, right before the ALC baseball agreement, baseball softball agreement is the page before that. It's page 94 of the audit, page 309 of our packet. It's just a glitch.
Look at that attention to detail.
You pay attention to every single page in there.
Not everything. I did not look at every page in the app. That just jumped out at me because it was at the top of the page.
Okay.
Very minor.
All right, so now we're going to first reading of the 23-24 district calendar.
Right, and I've got, I apologize, I've been behind on this one to be able to make sure we get information out. And I've learned that we need to approve the calendar every year and always stay at least a year or two ahead so that we have that, because it's hard to be able to go for 2 years and then have nothing for a while. So I've learned a good lesson. So what I have that I will share with you, I didn't get it copied, and so I will send it to you. We have 2 examples of a 23-24 calendar that have been put together for consideration. One of them is before Labor Day as a start for students. The other is after Labor Day as a start for students. I also have pulled up, we've gotten Corvallis's calendar as a neighboring district to be able to take a look at what's happening with them as a comparison, and then put together really a blank version of 23-24, and we also have 24-25. And so this will go to, probably not tomorrow, because tomorrow's a little busy, but tomorrow or early next week, to our calendar committee of staff members to be able to make sure that the reach out can go to all the individuals in schools to be able to weigh in on what do we believe is appropriate in terms of making sure there are X number of contract days. When do we start? When do conferences happen? Are we going to choose to have snow or inclement weather makeup days or not? When is best for winter break? When is best for spring break? The numbers of days for ends of trimesters, ends of quarters, and being able to make those determinations. For a long time, we were a before Labor Day starter, and the last 2 years we've been an after Labor Day starter. And I think we need to weigh in on what works best for us and for students. So these will go out. The other thing that will go out, come on, stop the share, there we go. The other thing that will go out is information to families. And the information to families will ask two questions. The first question is, how do you feel about starting before Labor Day, after Labor Day, or you really don't care? And the other one is about specifically conference days. If we have a conference day at one school, it means that no students have school, which has been traditional for a while until this year. This year, we made a shift to be able to put elementary conferences back to back, which meant that there was at least a day where elementary teachers had conferences and middle and high school students went to school. And then we had a reverse of that. To be able to have a day where middle and high school had conferences and elementary students went to school. We want to balance that. The other caveat in putting that out to families is to say the majority vote may not be what is determined. And that's because we've got each of the schools taking a look at as well as what's most appropriate and what do we need to do. So it gives us information, and I wanted to be very clear with families that it's going to give us information, but it's not going to be a majority vote wins. And so if it comes out, I mean, necessarily. So we don't have community members thinking wanted to start before Labor Day and 80% of us wanted to start before or after Labor Day, and they didn't make that decision. So want to be really transparent that we want the input, but it's going to be added to what we're asking of our staff in our schools to be able to consider for schedules. The intent would be that we come back in March and be able to look at the documents to have, if you will, kind of like policy of first read. And then be able to, if there are still questions at the March meeting, be ready to come back in April to be able to approve the calendars for the next 2 years.
Thank you. Approval of the co-op with LC High School baseball and softball. Right here, motion.
Also move, nobody accept.
Okay, second. All right. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
I have one quick question. Can we add the date to the letter? It's an undated letter again.
Oh, okay.
That's the only thing. It can still be approved as is. I just think it would be helpful to have the date on it.
This is January 28, 2020.
Oh, are you in the dates of the agreement? This is just.
Yes, sorry. Yes, the dates of the agreement. I wasn't sure if it was just for one school year. It says until they decide to dissolve it, which could mean in perpetuity, which I am actually fine with if that's what we want to do.
It says a 4-year co-op agreement.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have, apparently my eyes are not working that well. I promise I could read it. Thanks. Sorry about that.
So we're
back to voting?
Okay. Yep. Okay, motion passes 4-0, 1 absent. All right, second reading on policies. So if I can get, go ahead.
I was gonna move.
Oh.
Am I getting ahead of myself?
Well, I would just gonna, all I have is like CB, CPA, if somebody could say what the policy.
You weren't able to pull it up.
I wasn't able to.
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
This is, if you want, this is the one about the superintendent.
Okay.
CB.
CB is a superintendent. Highlighted, the board may not direct the superintendent to take any action that conflicts with a local, state, or federal law that applies to school districts.
Seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, that's changed.
I would hope you get rid of me if I did that.
So
We've had superintendents when I was first teaching that did things that were literally illegal.
since we have so many of them, if we can approve all of the C ones to start with, and then we'll go to the Gs, then the Is.
CPA's layoff, if you want me to, I can read.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah, CPA's layoff recall administrative personnel. Policy applies to all licensed administrators, board rank, assistant superintendent, who are not considered teachers under ORS was added, and then there was a section that was cut out, crossed out, defining what competence was basically, and then everything else was the same.
I was just curious about why that competence section was struck. Is that like a state change or?
It was pulled out because it's defined in a different document. They didn't change the language itself. They just pulled out the definition. If you go to the AR, it's listed in the AR instead, I believe.
Sorry.
So if somebody wants to move,
We got one more, we've got the CPAR that goes with.
well, yeah, it goes with that one, but I just,
Also, are we allowed to vote on multiple of the same motion or? do we-
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can.
Right.
so, I mean, we can vote on all at one time.
The AR just has some cleanup, but mostly it's things that have been removed to clean it up. It's a much longer one. Did you get a chance to look at it?
I looked at it, yeah, at home, but I can't get to it here because I have no internet
I was
service.
gonna say, because like, if you
Oh,
want,
it's fine.
this was a long one,
Yeah,
but yeah, I didn't see anything that jumped out at me.
Aaron, since you're on the committee, is there anything?
on the
No, I
CPA.
don't think that there was anything in any of the policies that are listed that we saw as potential concerns, except in the policy that we're revisiting. That was a question about background checks for volunteers. And there should hopefully be a supplemental page in your packet explaining the costs for that. It's going to incur a cost of approximately $20,000 a year to expand the background checks that we do for our volunteers. So that's the only policy that I recall there being anything that we felt in the committee needed to be discussed.
That would be GCDA-GDDA-AR, right?
That's correct.
Let's pull that one out for right now.
Okay.
Have a little bit more discussion on that, with this money that it's gonna cost, but, I think we can do the rest of them unless anybody has any.
Wanted to glance at one real quickly, of these others, because there's actually, there's like 9 more there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I went through them when I was at home, but I can't get to them now.
I was impressed that we did all of those in one session at the committee meeting. I'm going to pat ourselves on the back a little for that.
You were on a roll, that's for sure.
I read through them,
Yeah.
and again, nothing jumped out at me, so I'm okay approving all of these with the exception of
this one.
of that one, we
Yeah.
might want more discussion on.
Well, yeah, that's why I pulled it out, so if we can get a motion to approve all of them except for this one, so at this
One more, I
time.
need to look at one more.
Oh, that's fine.
I guess I have a question on, IGBHE. Who did these letters? I want to talk about SBA.
I think it's OSBA.
I feel like I'm having a stroke every time I
I
say it.
know, it's,
Okay, and,
well, they used to be numbered.
well, but that makes more sense. Anyway, sorry. So policy IGBAG, expanded options program. On page 3 of that, under post-secondary institution credit. I just was curious to know the background on changing the appeal process from the board to the superintendent.
Oh, we changed it to that to keep it in line with the process for all of our other complaints or that's not the right word. That's sort of the process that we follow for every other level and every other type in the AR, that it goes to either the building administrator, which in this case would be the person that they're trying to, move beyond, and then to the superintendent, and then to the board.
Okay, so they still can appeal it to the board after.
Yes. It's just the first step would be to go to the superintendent instead.
I was gonna make sure.
So does somebody want to,
I will move that we accept all of the second reading policies with the exception of the GCDA, GDDA, that we will discuss separately.
okay,
And just to clarify, does that include the, like, Because I wanted to discuss, sorry, I'm scrolling.
G's, we have C's, we have G's, we have I's, K, J's, K, and K's.
I wanted, if we can pull out IKC.
IKC.
Yeah.
What is IKC?
It's the class ranking, this one, about graduation, one that I talked about last. Like the.
Oh, yes. Yes, I had forgotten about that one. I apologize. We did figure that one out if you wanted, but let's go ahead with the motion and things, and then I can explain what we finally figured out when we were looking at it, not in a public meeting. Well, I guess it was still a public meeting, but a little bit.
Okay, yeah, so I guess, would that be okay to amend the motion just to?
Sure.
Approve that one?
Sure, okay, so we'll pull out both IKC and the previous one, but then approve all the others.
All right,
Second.
all right, been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Motion passes 4-0, one absent. Now we'll go back to the GCDA-GDDAAR. So it appears that, are we already paying this? The cost to do the fingerprinting?
We pay the cost to do fingerprinting for employees, et cetera. We do not, because we're not yet implementing something like that for volunteers. So we have not covered the cost of that.
Let me see if I'm reading this right. In the 21-22 school year, we paid $22,836.
No, that's the price it would cost if we were doing the fingerprint background checks.
Drop the last two columns off and
Oh, so the cost of fingerprinting in 21-22 was actually $66?
That was per finger. What is the total spend column?
That's what we spend, is it not, on just the regular background check?
Volunteer background checks, that's
That we
what it
do.
costs for the volunteer checks. They're
Oh, I see.
$4.
oh, so first three columns are what we have been doing.
So the final right column is the second to the right column minus the total spend column.
Right.
Is that right? See, I'm sitting next to my math teacher.
Yeah, so right now we're slightly, in 18-19, we spent $1,654. Had we done background checks,
Right.
we would have spent an additional $22,722.
Gotcha, okay.
Yes, the current background check that we do for volunteers costs $4, and the new background check that's potentially being proposed or requested that we figure out the pricing on is $66.
It's a huge increase.
So are we required to do these fingerprinting?
No, we are not. It was a concern or a question that was raised at our last meeting, why we're not doing the same background check for volunteers that we do for our contractors or our staff. And so Jennifer very graciously pulled the numbers and figured it out for us, so that we could see what it would cost were we to implement that as an additional safety protocol.
So in 21-22, if we had this policy in effect at that time, it would have cost us an additional $21,452.
Correct. Yes. So, I mean, I don't know if now is the time to make the motion, but I would make the motion that we approve the policy as was put in our February packet, that I believe is probably exactly what's in the March packet. Unfortunately, I can't see the meeting and my packet at the same time. So it would be the equivalent of that $4 background check. So we are still doing a safety background check on our volunteers. It's just not the federal background check. It's a state background check, I believe, is what it's called.
Okay, so
We could always revisit it in the future.
Well, certainly.
Christopher,
I guess just as far as rules about volunteers, how do rules about volunteers, if they do differ, how do they differ about the staff as far as like contact with like, as far as like one-on-one with students, or is it the same as it is with staff, or Like, is there any difference?
No, they're under the supervision of someone that's
Okay,
employed.
so someone
Yeah.
in that room would have gotten the full fingerprint background check at
Yes.
some point?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Personally, I'm not in favor of spending that kind of money.
Yeah.
When we have the person that oversees them has already went through the check, but they're still gonna get a background check done on them, it's just not gonna include the federal fingerprint.
Correct. And the way the language is written in the policy, should there ever be a concern, we can implement a federal background check on someone. It does not prohibit us from doing so. It just doesn't require us to do so.
It's like a case by case kind of.
Yes.
Okay, so
Did you then move that, Aaron?
What was that? I'm sorry.
You moved that? I can't remember.
Yes, I did. I did move to pass that individual policy.
moved and seconded, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0 on absent. Now we're gonna
IKC
go
was
to
the last
I,
one. Yeah.
what's it,
IKC was the last one. Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, Aaron, did you want, I wanted to just check in about the whole, the valedictorian may be permitted to speak as part of the district's planned graduation program at the discretion of the building principal.
Yes, so, sorry, I am putting it up in front of me here. We're looking at class rankings.
Second,
The second paragraph,
Yes.
the second sentence in the second paragraph, correct?
First sentence of the second paragraph. The,
First sentence. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, at the discretion of the building's principal. We didn't discuss that part in the policy committee. We had discussed point 2 around the honors diploma question that had come up. Because there was also a question of the valedictorian diploma, because there is a valedictory diploma. And in order to receive a valedictory diploma, you have to achieve an honors diploma plus a 4.0, and I believe it was 3 or 4 additional credits in very specific subjects, like taking an extra year of a language, taking a certain number of years of math, etc. So there are differences between the valedictory diploma and the honors diploma, which is why we added that caveat that is called out on there of the additional requirements. As far as the discretion, I actually do agree with Christopher's concern about it being at the discretion of the building principal. I would prefer that it be some sort of language change to indicate that a speech may be available at the discretion, not the individual speaker being approved at the discretion. Because there might be times that there's not a time allowance for a valedictory speech. I'm not sure. I want to make sure we're not putting a person in front of a decision rather than an occurrence of a speech. And I see your concerned face, Christopher.
I don't know in what case there would be a graduation ceremony in which there would not be time for valedictorians. I feel like that's like saying, oh, we don't have time to hand out the diplomas at graduation. Like, I don't really know what the point of the graduation.
Well, there are schools that don't, but yes, I understand your concern, but not Philomath. So what I'm saying, let me know if what I'm saying is what you're concerned about. That there might be a time that there's a conflict potentially between the principal or designee and the person giving the speech, or there may be a time that we would be opening ourselves up for a question of discriminatory practice of some sort. Is that your concern, or is it something else?
Sort of. I think my main concern is just, I am very big on that students, especially a student that has earned the title of valedictorian, should be permitted to speak. even if the principal doesn't like them. And I'm big on that. Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate for one administrator, who quite frankly has probably not been in the district as long as that valedictorian, to have veto power over someone that earned the title of valedictorian. So I guess that's my things. I think if you meet these requirements, you get to speak at graduation. And then I think that the committee was outlining that AR should have the, for the second sentence of all speeches must be reviewed and approved in advance by the building principal or designee. I think that should go to the committee instead of the building principal. The committee that's made up of the class presidents, like the 2 other students, the building principal and the designee, and 1 other teacher or something. Because we already formed that committee for other purposes, and it feels more appropriate to have a committee make those decisions rather than one administrator, just for the same.
What if there's 4 valedictorians or 6 valedictorians, as has happened occasionally in the past?
It's actually pretty standard. I would say it happens more often than it doesn't. And they will do group speeches, or there will be additional speeches offered generally.
Picks which out of them? What you're asking?
It cut out for just a second, I'm sorry.
So you're just asking who picks which of the 5 people speaks? Is that the question?
Right.
Because I think it should just go to that committee that's already.
Yeah, I agree. We can change the language within the policy to change anywhere where in those first 2 sentences where it says school principal or designee, we can just change those to the graduation committee. I assume that the principal probably sits on the graduation committee, so they will have an opportunity for their voice to be heard. We're not removing anything or creating a quagmire that I can anticipate. Of course, I have not been involved in any graduation planning at any great extent, so there might be something really obvious that I'm not seeing.
Okay,
My suggestion would be that we pull out IKC and take it back to the policy committee, because the other policy that we still have, it has to do with the types of diplomas. Because the policy had pretty clearly, or the information had pretty clearly outlined a standard diploma and an honors diploma, but it really didn't clearly identify in the policy about a valedictory diploma. And so we need to clean that up. So since they are connected, we may just want to pull that out and make sure the 2 of them are in alignment. What do you think about that, Aaron?
Yeah, we can review it again. This just will be the 3rd review of it for our first reading, which is totally fine. I want to make sure we get it right when we're doing it. So, Christopher, if you would do me the great favor, because I am a little under the weather and cannot trust my non-written notes, would you please send me an email outlining the part that you're concerned about, so I make sure that that gets discussed at our meeting?
We're going to table the IKC. Okay.
Yep.
Moving on, meeting closure. Next meeting agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they want to see on the?
I guess I mentioned this last time, we always have the special education advisory committee on our agenda, and I don't think I've written them once the whole time I've been on the board. And I would like to, but also if we're not going to hear from them, can we get them off the agenda? Like, I don't know why they're on the agenda. We've never.
No, I agree, because it was one of the things that we wanted to continue, so I think that we can pull them off.
Okay, I mean, I would like to hear from them.
Right, but we can hear from them as putting it as a formal part of the agenda rather than a regular monthly.
Right, yeah.
Yes, and I definitely understand those are volunteers, so they might not always have time or availability to come to our meetings, so.
Anything else?
I just had the reminders that we'll come back for the calendar. We'll come back for the audit with the auditors here, and then the integrated guidance plan that has to be approved before the end of March, which is all the student investment account and all the other funds. That those 3 items will come back.
Okay. All right. Hearing nothing else. Board thanks.
thanks for all the staff, classified, certified, administrative, keeping us running, doing a great job.
I guess, I got to go visit the Excel class at the middle school, which was very fun, and I saw a few folks there. And got to kind of chat with them a little bit about, you know, student leadership and everything. And one thing that really stuck with me was I asked, you know, like if they had questions, and I also just kind of asked, like, what are your thoughts on going to school here? Any feedback? And that was the only prompting I gave, and I told them to be incredibly honest. And you know, and there was like one sort of critique comment, but the best comment was from this girl who transferred here from another school, and she said that like it was that now she like enjoys going to school, and that all of her friends feel the same way, and that it's a place where she feels like she can really sort of look forward to coming to school every day. It feels like she can really learn and everything. And that just, I don't know, I don't know if there's anything more that we could really ask for as a board than to hear that sort of unprompted from a student. And so I just wanted to thank, I think, everyone in the middle school for making it an environment where students can feel that way. And to keep on doing what they're doing. I also got to visit the elementary school, but I didn't get a chance to talk to the students. So yeah, I wanted to thank everyone who was involved in that.
If I can tag on to that, as a parent of a middle schooler who maybe doesn't fit into a nice, neat row or cookie cutter, I very much appreciate the above the call of duty efforts that often happen with teachers and the rest of the staff and the office team and counselors to make sure that those children who have not yet realized that everyone in the world is a misfit to feel welcomed and supported in their misfit status. So as always, I tell you to your faces, and I can't see the audience, so I'm just imagining there are 3,000 people sitting there right now, because that's what it sounded like at the beginning of the meeting. But I just want to say my deepest appreciations to all of you, and also with School Counselor Month. Oh my goodness, school counselors, saints on earth, in my opinion. So thank you all for your hard work.
Okay.
I don't do board thanks very often, but it's more board acknowledgement to be able to take a look at first of all, our one of the citizen awardees at the Chamber's Samaritan Awards, Mr. McMorrin. And the other 3 individuals who were recognized in those categories, one of them was Doug Edmonds, and Doug is has been a longtime substitute and supporter and volunteer within the schools as well as within the community. And so there's a connection there. Mark Kepi was another person who has, I don't know what we're going to do without Mark and the bike rodeo at Philomath Elementary School. I mean, it's been Mark's show for a lot of years. And then, of course, Laura Shell, who was the future first citizen as a student of ours. And so you're looking at 4 of the highest awardees in that Samaritan Award circle that all have really strong connections to the school district. And so it's really, really nice to see.
All right, I just want to once again thank all the staff from top to bottom. If it wasn't for them, it wouldn't be possible. Haven't been down at the high school the last month or so for different sporting events, all volunteers that help put on those events. I mean, it wouldn't be possible without them. Super huge. Thanks to everybody that makes this district what it is. And I think it's probably one of the best districts in the state. So that's what I got. So anybody else?
Well, just, I wanted to know, niche.com ranked the Oklahoma School District as the 9th best school district in the state of Oregon. So it's not just Rick saying.
Top 10.
Yeah, top 10, that's right, yeah. Above number 10.
And also, if you have a
Great
paper,
district.
just to point out, next month is March 14th, not March 16th.
That's where I was gonna go with the next part of it. The important dates on this, March 16th, it says it from 7 to 9 for the regular board meeting. It's been changed to the 14th because we have to do some business before the 15th. So that's why we had to move it up. So if you want to mark it on your calendars, it's March 14th at 7 o'clock. And if there's nothing else, we'll go for being adjourned.
I have a board, not thanks, but the like mention thing. It's usually on the last part of the agenda. Many of you probably know Jill Williams, who worked at the elementary school for quite a while and is one of my somebody who I appreciate as a human being, has a GoFundMe up due to some medical expenses. And I just wanted to bring that to people's attention, see if maybe they could help out a little bit. So I just wanted to raise that. Sorry. Now I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all for coming to the meeting tonight. What's that?